الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم. ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم. وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم. ومن آياته الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر لا تسجدوا للشمس ولا للقمر واسجدوا لله الذي خلقهن إن كنتم إياه تعبدون. فإن استكبروا فالذين عند ربك يسبحون له بالليل والنهار وهم لا يسأمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة. حسبك بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Now I would like to welcome Sayyid Saleh Al-Qazwini for his lecture مصحوبا بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد بأعلى الأصوات.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: قل إن الخاسرين الذين خسروا أنفسهم وأهليهم يوم القيامة ألا ذلك هو الخسران المبين. For the love of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein and his holy household, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. To measure the magnitude and the greatness of any event in history, scholars and historians, they try to see how much of an impact, how much repercussions does that event have, and based upon the impact and the repercussions, they see that this event is a great event in history. And from amongst the greatest of the events in the history of mankind is the day of Ashura, the day Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, along with his family and companions, were killed in the year 61 after Hijrah on the 10th of Muharram. Now, for some people, the day of Ashura was just an event. It was one day in history. There have been many people that have been killed. There have been many rebellions. There have been many revolutions. But none of these revolutions and movements have created the repercussions that the movement of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam created. In fact, you see that the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the revolution of Imam al-Hussein, it created other revolutions. It fueled other rebellions and other movements. From the beginning, immediately after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, there were many rebellions, and inshallah we will discuss a few, until recent history. Until recent history, there are revolutions that are inspired by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Revolutions and movements that are inspired by the movement of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. In fact, revolutionaries, sometimes Muslim, sometimes non-Muslim, they say we learned from Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. One of them is Gandhi. Gandhi, he said, I learned from Imam al-Hussein how to be victorious even while I am being attacked and while in my weakness. And there have been many others that were inspired by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. From amongst the early revolutions and rebellions that were directly associated with the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein was a rebellion that took place in the city of Medina, in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, which is known as Waqi'at al-Harra. And this was after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. The people of Medina, the residents and inhabitants of Medina, they all rebelled against Bani Umayyah. And the history says that they sent several individuals. A man, one of the sons of Khuzaymah ibn Thabit. Khuzaymah ibn Thabit was one of the shuhada. Khuzaymah ibn Thabit, he goes with several others, they go to Sham and they discover that Yazid is a person who's a drunkard. Yazid is very far from religion. Yazid doesn't pray. Yazid has no association with religion. And then they come back and they decide on rebelling against Yazid. Now the irony is that these same people, Imam al-Hussein just a few months before was telling them the same thing. He was inviting them to join him, but they did not join Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now they saw the fact and they saw the reality in their eyes, so they decided to rebel. They kicked out the governor, the Umayyad governor from Medina, and Yazid sent an army under the command of a man by the name of Muslim ibn Uqba. An army all the way from Sham. They marched all the way to Medina, and they created one of the greatest massacres recorded in history, where they say over 10,000 of the inhabitants of Medina were butchered and killed. And after that event, the Yazid, he made the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, the city of Medina, he made it halal upon his army for 3 days, where they say that a lady, a woman, she would go and seek refuge next to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and they would not give her refuge. They say after that event, over 1,000 children were born that they did not know who their fathers were. Over 700 of those who have memorized the Quran, they were butchered. Over 10,000 of the inhabitants of Medina, and many of them were Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were butchered. Once the army, they got control of Medina, then they made everyone who remained alive, everyone who survived, they made them give bay'ah to Yazid. But this time, it wasn't just a bay'ah that they're accepting Yazid as a leader. This time, they are saying that they are the slaves of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Subhanallah. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam wanted to liberate them. He tells them, join me, the people of Medina and the people of Mecca as well. They neglected Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They did not join with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, because from what we see, the majority of the supporters of Imam al-Hussein were either from his family, the Ahl al-Bayt, or they were the people of Kufa. People of Medina and people of Mecca, they didn't really show support. Now, they paid the price because Imam al-Hussein tried to liberate them. Now they paid the price. They sign and they give bay'ah to Yazid that they are slaves of Yazid. Of course, the narration says that Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, now he's back, because this was after Ashura. This was the second year after murdering Imam al-Hussein. Imam Zayn al-Abidin was exempted from this type of bay'ah because Yazid had already been humiliated by Imam Zayn al-Abidin in the palace, in the masjid of Sham. So he said, leave Ali ibn al-Hussein, but everyone else, all the others, they had to give bay'ah to Yazid, that they are the slaves of Yazid. Now, this man, Muslim ibn Uqba, who attacked Medina in that way, he became known as Musrif ibn Uqba. Musrif, meaning he does israf, he does waste in what? In blood. Because he killed so many people, he became known as Musrif ibn Uqba, and they say that after 3 days, his army left Medina, he died. And this is what you get for attacking the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So this was one of the first earliest rebellions that took place against Bani Umayyah immediately after Imam al-Hussein was killed. And Yazid ruled for 3 years. Year 61, he killed Imam al-Hussein. The year after, Waqa'at al-Harra, this event of al-Harra took place. And the 3rd year, he attacked Mecca. He attacked Mecca and he demolished and he destroyed the Kaaba. They catapulted the Kaaba. You know, Mecca, it is surrounded by mountains. So it's very hard for an army to march and enter into Mecca. Mecca is in a valley. The Kaaba is in a valley. So after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein, there was a person, he's one of the sons of the Sahaba, and this man, Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Abdullah, the son of Zubayr. This man, he had the potential to be one of the greatest of the individuals, but he did not have a good intention in what he did. First of all, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he's the son of Zubayr. He is the reason that Zubayr fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battle of Jamal. And he turned Zubayr ibn Awam, Zubayr, the companion of Rasulullah, he turned him against Amir al-Mu'mineen. He would, even in the battle of Jamal, he would tell his father, Ajabunt, are you afraid of Ali ibn Abi Talib? He would push his father to fight Amir al-Mu'mineen. Zubayr, he ended up leaving the battle, but he was killed by some other person. And he ended up dying, not in support of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but he had conspired and waged a war against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Anyways, this man Zubayr, he's the grandson of Abu Bakr. His mother is Asma bint Abi Bakr. So he had this grudge against the Ahl al-Bayt. When Yazid came to power, he said, I want 3 people to give me bay'ah. One is Hussein ibn Ali, the second is Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and the third is Abdullah ibn Umar. Imam al-Hussein, he was very clear. He said, I'm not giving bay'ah to Yazid. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he said, I'm not giving bay'ah to Yazid. He knows what kind of a person Yazid was. But he refused to support Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He refused to give bay'ah to Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein was in Mecca. Imam al-Hussein tells people, come with me to Iraq and be with me and support me. He refused. What does he say? He tells Imam al-Hussein, you go to Iraq, you go. Why? because he knows as long as Imam al-Hussein is in Mecca, no one is going to look at him. No one's going to give him attention. He told Imam al-Hussein, you go. He did not support Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein was killed. As soon as he heard Imam al-Hussein was killed, out of love for power, not because of for the sake of Imam al-Hussein, he declared a caliphate. And he declared a caliphate against Yazid. So now you have a caliphate in Mecca and Medina, and the reason why Medina was attacked was somewhat inspired by the caliphate of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. But Medina, because it's a flat land, it's farmland, an army is able to enter very easily. Mecca, it's mountainous, there's a valley, an army cannot come in. It's very difficult. And look at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He did not want to cause any bloodshed in Mecca for the sanctity of Mecca. He said, I will leave. I will leave for the sanctity of Mecca. I don't want blood to be spilled in Mecca. This is sacred land. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he said, this is the perfect place to carry out my agenda. He starts his caliphate, and Yazid sends an army. That man, Musrif, he dies. Someone else comes to power. That army marches to Mecca, and they begin to catapult the Kaaba. Of course, the army fails. They're unable to get in. They're unable to bring away Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he ends up ruling until year 73. So Imam al-Hussein was killed in year 61. Until year 73, you have two caliphates that are going on. One Umayyad caliphate, that is in Sham. And then you have the Zubayri caliphate, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, in Mecca and Medina. And Iraq is in between. Iraq, there's a struggle. At some point, you find the Umayyads, they have control. The Umayyads lose control. The Zubayris come, and then Mukhtar comes as well. So Iraq is in between. There's the struggle, and the battleground is taking place in Iraq. Now, this man, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, his brother, and his army, they end up fighting for control over Iraq, and his brother Mus'ab ibn Zubayr ends up killing Mukhtar, which we will talk about inshallah. So it wasn't an Umayyad army that killed Mukhtar. It was the Zubayri army that ended up killing Mukhtar. And Abdullah ibn Zubayr, this man, he was killed in the year 73 when Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, this time the Umayyads, they got full control, and they sent one of their most ruthless rulers, and that is Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf Al-Thaqafi. They sent Hajjaj, he entered into Mecca, and he killed Az-Zubayr, and he crucified him in Mecca. Meaning they didn't care for the sanctity of Mecca. So you see, we mentioned so far two rebellions. One is the rebellion of the people of Medina, Waqa'at al-Harra, and the second is the rebellion in Mecca, which lasted until year 73, and this was through Abdullah ibn Zubayr. These two rebellions, they did not have the sense of love for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They did it for their own reasons. But in Iraq, on the other hand, in Kufa, there were two movements, two rebellions that were directly inspired by the love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and to defend and seek justice for the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now, the city of Kufa and the people of Kufa, it's a very ironic situation. You find that the majority of the supporters of Imam al-Hussein, they were from which city? They were from Kufa. And the majority, the army that ended up killing Imam al-Hussein, they were from where? Also from Kufa. So someone is like, what's going on? You're either the supporters, you're either the Shia, or you are the enemies of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And here we have to understand, we can't have a very simple-minded approach towards a whole city. They say that when Amir al-Mu'mineen was ruling Kufa, it had 4 million people. Right now, in one city, do you find different groups of people? Is that normal? Very normal. Kufa had Shi'as of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And perhaps the most concentration of the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the partisans of Ali, they were in Kufa. So that's one group of people. There was another group of people, they were the Shia of Bani Umayyah. And this is why Imam al-Hussein, on the day of Ashura, what does he call the enemies? He tells them, Ya Shi'ata Ali Abi Sufyan. You are the Shi'as of the family of Abu Sufyan. Today some people, they get upset when they see the Shi'as mourning Imam al-Hussein and crying for Imam al-Hussein. So what do they come and they say? They say, look, these Shi'as, they killed Hussein and now they're crying for Imam al-Hussein. Can it be accepted? Can it be that a person who is a Shi'i, Shi'i by definition means someone who loves and follows and obeys Imam al-Hussein. Can it be accepted that this person will go and kill Imam al-Hussein? Of course not. And this is why on the day of Ashura, they made it very clear. They tell him, نَقْتُلُكَ بُغْضًا مِنَّا لِأَبِيكَ. We are killing you because of our hatred for your father, Ali ibn Abi Talib. In fact, even when Amir al-Mu'mineen was in Kufa, there were individuals that despised Amir al-Mu'mineen. There were Khawarij. There were loyalists to Bani Umayyah. So the demographics of Kufa could be divided into 3 categories or 4 categories. One, they were the Shia of Ali. Another group, they were the Shia of Bani Umayyah. Shia means follower. It doesn't mean Shia by definition, just means follower. So Shia of Bani Umayyah. And third, there was a group of people who were Khawarij. Khawarij were groups of people that did not like Amir al-Mu'mineen and did not like Bani Umayyah. They thought that they were above the law. That was a segment. And the 4th segment, they were a group of people that were Shia, but not of Bani Umayyah, not of Imam al-Hussein or Amir al-Mu'mineen, but they were Shia of the money, the dinar and the dirham, like many people you find today. Many people today, they'll tell you, listen, put principles aside. Tell me where the money is. Tell me where the cheese is, right? Where the bling bling is. This is how many people are. They'll follow money. Wherever money is, they'll go. They don't care. There's no principles. There's no values. And in fact, this was the largest segment of people that participated in the murder of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Groups of people that were just in it for the money. Bani Umayyah, they tell them, we're going to give you money. We're going to put you on a salary. You want? You want to get money? You want to keep your house over your head? You want to get the gold dinars? Go and join this army. And this is what they ended up doing. So they were not real followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now, those people who were after money, who were after wealth, they went and they killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Did they get anything out of it? Did anyone get anything from killing Imam al-Hussein? Not a single person. Every person that was promised wealth or land or whatever it was to go and participate in killing Imam al-Hussein, not a single person enjoyed a day, enjoyed a single dinar or dirham. And Imam al-Hussein told them. Imam al-Hussein was very clear. Imam al-Hussein tells Umar ibn Sa'd on the day of Ashura, he tells him, oh Ibn Sa'd, right now, you want power, you want money, I will give you money. I will give you land, whatever it is. Do not carry out this crime. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was not telling him so that he could live another day. Because Imam al-Hussein knew that Umar ibn Sa'd, if he rejects this order, if he does not kill Imam al-Hussein, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad is going to send someone else. Shimr ibn al-Jawshan was ready to take the command. But Imam al-Hussein wanted to tell him, listen, you're not going to get anything out of it. But they were in it for the money and for the power and for the wealth, and they ended up losing everything and not gaining anything. And Allah says this very clearly in the Quran. قُلْ إِنَّ الْخَاسِرِينَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَهْلِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَلَا ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْخُسْرَانُ الْمُبِينُ. The khasir, the loser, is the one that lost themselves and their family on the day of judgment. That is the loser. And all these people who participated in that crime, they ended up losing everything. So now, in Kufa, there was a group of people that rose after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein and they rebelled. And in fact, there were 2 movements. One was a movement by the name of the Repenters movement, At-Tawabin. These were Shi'as, these were loyalists to the Ahlul Bayt, followers of the Ahlul Bayt, but they felt the regret and the shame that why did we not do more? Why did we allow Imam al-Hussein? He came all the way. We wrote letters to Imam al-Hussein. He came all the way from Medina. He came very close. Karbala is close to Kufa. He came very close and he was killed very close to us, and we did not do anything. Now, of course, a lot of the Shia, the real Shia, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, they were excused. Why? Because when Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, he came, he sealed and he closed all of the entrances of Kufa, meaning no one is allowed to leave and no one is allowed to enter. And he started imposing martial law. He put his military, his army, his police in the roads. Anyone who leaves, where are you going? And there were checkpoints, and they began to arrest and they began to execute many of the Shi'as of the Ahlul Bayt. One of them who was executed days before Ashura was a very close companion to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Maytham al-Tammar. Maytham al-Tammar, the companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he lived all the way until days before Ashura. Days before Ashura, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad crucified him. He killed him and he crucified him. And Maytham al-Tammar, while he was crucified, he began to speak. This became the perfect mambar for him, the perfect opportunity to begin to speak of the merits of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's on a tree, he's being crucified, and he begins to speak of the fada'il and the merits of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad tells him, stop, be quiet. He tells him, my master Amir al-Mu'mineen told me that you're going to cut off my tongue. He tells him, I'm going to make your master Ali be a liar, and we're not going to do that. So Ubaidullah ibn Maytham al-Tammar, he's being crucified and he's speaking until they said, that's it, go and cut off his tongue. Exactly what Ali ibn Abi Talib had said will happen. And he's killed and he's buried in Masjid al-Kufa. So this was one person who was killed. Another person who was arrested days before Ashura, right after the death of Muslim ibn Aqil, the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqil, was Al-Mukhtar ibn Abi Ubaid Al-Thaqafi. Al-Mukhtar, this man, he was arrested by Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, and Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, he had a piece of iron rod. He struck him in the eye and he was imprisoned. The day of Ashura came, Mukhtar was in prison. He was in jail. And many of the Shi'as, many of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they were imprisoned. But now, there was a group of people who, yes, they could have probably done more. Just like many times we could have done more. A lot of times we say, why didn't this happen? Why didn't this happen? Because we were too lazy. Because we were afraid to speak out. Because we're afraid of the government. Because we're afraid that we're going to lose our house. We're afraid we're going to lose our investments. We're afraid that we're going to lose our job. You know, when we talk about the people who did not support Imam Hussein, maybe we could be in that category, right? How many times do we end up allowing wrong to happen and we stay quiet? Right now we are living in a time where we have an Imam, and that is Imam al-Mahdi al-Muntadhar. Maybe we're doing a lot of wrong because we're too comfortable, we're too content with the way that we're living our lives. This is the repenters, this is what they were. But after Imam al-Hussein was killed, they felt the shame and the guilt, and one of the leaders of the Tawabin movement, a man by the name of Sulaiman ibn Sard al-Khuza'i. This man was one of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one of the companions of the Prophet. He gathers over 100 men in his home and he said, listen, we allowed Imam al-Hussein to be killed and butchered, and we allowed this to happen. Yes, we didn't kill him, but we did not support him. We did not stand. We did not defend him. We allowed him to be killed. We invited him. We told him, come and we will support you. And then we let him come and he was killed on his own. So here they decided to seek vengeance over the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And their slogan, they made a slogan, a shu'ar. Their slogan was, Ya litharat al-Hussein. We are going to seek vengeance for the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. And they began to collect money. They began to collect weapons. And they went to Karbala. They went to Karbala at the grave of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and they stayed there crying and weeping over the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. Then they went out towards Sham. They went out towards Damascus to confront the army, the Syrian army. They go there and they were all butchered. They were all killed. Now, why was this a failed movement? There were many of the Shias that did not join this. In fact, in the beginning of the Tawabin movement, they had over 16,000 supporters. When they went out to fight, they were only 4,000. And the army that ended up confronting them and killing them was an army of over 20,000 in a place by the name of Ain al-Warda, between Syria and between Iraq. That's where the battle took place. The reason why some of the leaders of the Shia, a man like Mukhtar, for example, he did not join them. Why? Because he said, this is a suicide mission. They just want to go and get killed, and that's their way of repenting. That's their way of saying that, let Allah forgive us. And that was their mission. That was their mission. They said, when they gathered in Karbala, Sulaiman ibn Sard al-Khuza'i, their leader, he's a Sahaba of Rasulullah. He says, Allahumma inna nushhiduka anna ala deen al-Husayn wa sabilih wa a'da' qatilihim. And then he said, Alhamdulillah alladhi law sha'a akramana bish-shahadah ma'a al-Husayn, Allahumma idh haramtanaha ma'ahu fala tuhrimna fih ba'dah. Meaning, oh Allah, you did not grant us shahada with Imam al-Husayn on the day of Karbala, then do not take it away from us. We want to go towards shahada. This was their mission. This was their goal. This became a weak movement once some of them, they said, these guys are just going to certain death. That was their goal. Now, there is this, when they were killed, this gave birth to Mukhtar's movement. Mukhtar, he is a leader. He's a commander. His father and his brothers, they fought in a battle by the name of Ma'rakat al-Jasr. And his father was killed. And Mukhtar, at a young age, from a young age, he became known as a leader amongst his peers. And this is why, when Muslim ibn Aqil was going to Iraq, whose house did he stay in the beginning? He stayed with Mukhtar. He goes and he stays with Mukhtar because Mukhtar was a leader of the Shia. But then, because of the events that happened, Mukhtar had left town, Muslim ibn Aqil was killed, and then Mukhtar comes back and he's arrested. But Mukhtar, he did not want to join a movement that's just going to be killed. Mukhtar, he wanted to establish rule, and Mukhtar wanted to kill the murderers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Tawabin, they left Kufa, and Umar ibn Sa'd and Shimr ibn al-Jawshan and Harmala, they're all living in Kufa. They were going out to fight Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, who had left Kufa. They were going out to get killed by an army, while the murderers of Imam al-Hussein are still dwelling and living in Kufa. So Mukhtar, he had a different plan, and that's why he did not join the Tawabin movement. But Mukhtar, to bring him to where he is, to establish rule, we said Mukhtar was imprisoned on the day of Ashura. So how did he get out of prison? Mukhtar, his sister is married to Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah ibn Umar, remember we said there were three individuals that Yazid said, I want bay'ah from them, because they were top-ranking individuals in society. They have prestige. They have influence. One was Imam al-Hussein, who did not give bay'ah and was killed. Second was Ibn Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who took power for himself. And the third was Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah, the son of Umar. Umar, the second Khalifa. So, Abdullah ibn Umar, look at the irony here. Abdullah ibn Umar, when Imam Ali alayhi salam was in power, he tells Imam Ali, I'm not going to give you bay'ah right now. I don't want to give you bay'ah right now. I'm going to wait until all the Muslims are united over you, and then I'm going to give you bay'ah. Even though he knows exactly who Amir al-Mu'mineen is. But when Yazid comes to power, he gives Yazid bay'ah. He gives allegiance to Yazid. And he stays in Mecca, he's safe in Mecca, because he gave allegiance. So there's no issue. Now, Abdullah ibn Umar is married to the sister of Mukhtar. Mukhtar is imprisoned by Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad in Kufa. So Abdullah ibn Umar, he writes a letter to Yazid. He tells him, this is my brother-in-law. Why is he imprisoned? You have nothing against him. At that time, Mukhtar had not done anything for him to be imprisoned. So Yazid writes a letter to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He tells him, let go of Mukhtar. Why is Mukhtar in prison? Mukhtar is from a tribe, a big tribe, Bani Thaqif. They're known. Why should we make enemies with them? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he takes him out of prison and he tells him, you have 3 days. I don't want to see you. The third day I see you in Kufa, you're going to be killed. Mukhtar, he leaves prison and he goes to Mecca. Now, Mecca is under the rule of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. He goes there. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he tells him, give me bay'ah, give me allegiance and support me. He knows he's a military leader. Mukhtar, he tells him, I will give you bay'ah that you and me, we're on the same level, meaning you have to counsel with me. You don't make decisions on your own. I will guide you. I will tell you, sometimes you have to counsel with me. That's the condition that I will give you bay'ah. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he accepted. He accepted. And when Yazid sent an army to attack Mecca, when they catapulted and destroyed the Kaaba, Mukhtar was in Mecca at that time. Right after the martyrdom, he was in Mecca and he defended Mecca alongside the army of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. However, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he was able to take rule in Kufa. He was able to establish rule in Kufa. But Mukhtar saw that Abdullah ibn Zubayr has not done anything different. What's the difference between Bani Umayyah and Ibn Zubayr? The murders of Imam al-Hussein, they're all living in Kufa. Umar ibn Sa'd is walking freely. Harmala is walking freely. Sinan ibn Anas, no one has come after them. He tells him, this is not the way that we want things. Ibn Zubayr, he ignores Mukhtar. Mukhtar, he leaves. He leaves Mecca and he goes all the way to Kufa. He goes to Kufa and he removes the governor that is appointed by the Zubayris, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and he takes power and he takes authority. And Al-Mukhtar, he rules for 18 months. 18 months. And then Mus'ab ibn Zubayr, the brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, they come and they siege Kufa and they end up killing Mukhtar and they end up killing over 6,000, 6,000 or 7,000 people with him, and even the wife of Mukhtar. He comes and he asks her, do you give bara'ah? Do you give bara'ah? Meaning, do you disassociate yourself away from Mukhtar? He had 2 wives. One of them, she said yes. He lets her live. The other one, she said no. Mukhtar was a good person. He used to pray. He was a good person. He goes and he kills her. So it shows you that Ibn Zubayr was power hungry and he ended up killing Mukhtar. Now, the rule of Mukhtar, how did Mukhtar get his legitimacy? Today there's a lot of discussion regarding Mukhtar. In the non-Shia school of thought, in the Sunni school of thought, they despise Mukhtar. And there are some narrations out there that say he declared himself a prophet, or he declared Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya a prophet, and he was the messenger, and things that are blasphemous in nature. The followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we have also, from the non-Shia school of thought, it's all dislike towards Mukhtar. Within the Shia narrations, there are 2 types of narrations. There are some narrations that are praising him, and there are other narrations that are condemning him. But the majority of the scholars right now, for example, even Sayyid al-Khoi and others, they say we accept the narrations that are in praise of Mukhtar. Because no matter what he had done, Mukhtar, one thing he did is that he cooled down the pain in the heart of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Because those 18 months that he ruled, one thing he did, and that was he sought vengeance for those who killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Meaning he took revenge from everyone who killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now today some people say, was Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam giving Mukhtar his legitimacy? Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, after the event of Karbala, he secluded himself from politics. He did not get involved. But his uncle, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya is the son of Imam Ali, the brother of Imam al-Hussein. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, he was having correspondence, letters with Mukhtar. And he would tell Mukhtar, do this and do that. But of course, in the non-Shia view is that Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya declared himself an imam and a prophet and all of that, and we don't accept this. We believe Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, he was obedient to Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. And this is all just propaganda because al-Mukhtar was a man who killed the murderers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So during his rule, Mukhtar, he killed Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, he sent Ibrahim, the son of Malik al-Ashtar, and there was a battle that took place, and Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad was killed. Then he goes and he captures Umar ibn Sa'd. Umar ibn Sa'd was in his home. He captures him. He was hiding. He captures him, and he finds him, and they kill him. And then they come and they bring the son of Umar ibn Sa'd. The son of Umar ibn Sa'd, and he says, kill him as well. And then he says, this is for Hussein and this is for Ali ibn al-Hussein, but they're not equal to one another. Meaning, Imam al-Hussein and Ali ibn al-Hussein were killed. This is Umar ibn Sa'd and his son, but they are la sawa, they are not equal to one another. And then he kills Shimr ibn al-Jawshan, and then he kills Murrah ibn Munqidh al-Abdi, Zayd ibn al-Raqad, and one of the individuals who he killed was Harmalah ibn Kahil. And there's an interesting story with Harmalah ibn Kahil, and that was that one of the narrators, Al-Minhal ibn Amr. Al-Minhal ibn Amr, he's a close friend of Al-Mukhtar. He goes to perform the Hajj, and he sees Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. Imam Zayn al-Abidin tells him, O Minhal, I ask you a question. What are the murderers of my father doing in Kufa? He tells him, the murderers of your father, they're living. Minhal at that time, he didn't know that Al-Mukhtar had taken power. He tells him they're living in Kufa, and we see them sometimes. He tells him, I ask you a question. What is Harmala ibn Kahil doing in Kufa? He tells him, Harmala, he's also living. And then Imam Zayn al-Abidin begins to cry. And he says, Allahumma adhiqhu harra al-hadid. Allahumma adhiqhu harra al-nar. Oh Allah, let Harmala taste the heat of fire. Let Harmala feel the heat and the pain of the iron. And then Minhal, he tells him, what did Harmala do? Imam Zayn al-Abidin tells him, Harmala broke our hearts. The Ahl al-Bayt, their hearts were broken because of what Harmala did. Al-Minhal, he says, I go back to Kufa and I discover and I find out that Mukhtar has taken power. He says, I go to visit him. Mukhtar, he tells me, oh Minhal, we haven't seen you. Where have you been? Well, you haven't come to congratulate us. He tells him, I was performing Hajj and I visited Zayn al-Abidin, and here I am. He says, while I was talking to him, suddenly the generals of Mukhtar, they come, oh Mukhtar, oh Amir, we have good news, we have good news. We captured Harmala. They come and they bring Harmala to Mukhtar. And Mukhtar, he asks Harmala, what did you do on the day of Ashura? What were the crimes that you committed on the day of Ashura? He tells him, I had several arrows. One arrow, I shot it at the son of Imam al-Hussein, Abdullah, and I killed him in the hands of his own father. He said, I had another arrow, and that arrow, I killed Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, Abdullah, the son of Imam al-Hasan, in the last moments of the life of Imam al-Hussein. And I had another arrow, and I shot it at the eyes of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. And I had another arrow, and I shot it at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Minhal, he says, Mukhtar, he said, bring me the swordmen. They bring the swordmen. He said, Mukhtar said, bring the fire, light the fire, cut off his arms and his legs and throw him in the fire. He says, they did this, and I said, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Mukhtar, he looks at Minhal, he tells him, why are you saying Subhanallah? What is there to say Subhanallah for? He said, I was with Zayn al-Abidin, and he asked me, what is Harmala doing? And he did this dua. He said, Allahumma adhiqhu harra al-hadid. Allahumma adhiqhu harra al-nar. He said, when I told Mukhtar that this was the dua of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says he came down and he did a long sujood, thanking Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him from those who sought vengeance for the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Al-Mukhtar ended up ruling for 18 months, and then he was killed by the brother of the brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Mus'ab ibn Zubayr, and Al-Mukhtar is buried in Masjid al-Kufa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who rise with the Imam of our time, who will be the one who seeks real vengeance for the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Yes, Al-Mukhtar, he was a person who sought vengeance, and his slogan was Ya li tharat al-Hussein. And according to our hadith, that the slogan of Imam al-Mahdi al-Muntadhar is also going to be Ya li tharat al-Hussein. I am rising to seek vengeance for the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. And this is why in Dua al-Nudbah, we do dua for Imam al-Mahdi, and one of the parts of the dua, we say, أين الطالب بذحول الأنبياء وأبناء الأنبياء أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء. Where is the one who will seek real vengeance for the one who was killed in Karbala? نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك غافر الخطيئات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلوات.